Welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. We have been crushing it week after week in 2025. I've been giving you out bet after bet, underdog after underdog. I'm talking plus 500s, plus 300s, plus 200s, and some big confident spots on the favorites. If you have been tailing me this year, you're up over 100 units in 2025 already. And in this video, I want to help you crush and cash big this weekend as the UFC enter Abu Dhabi in the Etihad Arena for a banger of a fight night, one of the best fight nights of the year. We have Robert Whittaker taking on the surgeon Reinier. This guy has been crushing veterans and prospects in the UFC, and now he is taking on one of the ultra veterans and a former champion of this division in Robert Whittaker. We also have another former champion, Petr, taking on a surging contender in McGhee. That is going to be an absolute banger of a matchup. Two of the best boxers in the bantamweight division going head to head, and whoever wins that fight is going to be in with a title shot in not too long, in my opinion. We also have Shara making his return from his first loss in the UFC, and he is taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Bryce and Nurmagomedov look to bounce back from their losses in their last fight in somewhat of a grappling delight matchup. So I cannot wait to talk about it with you guys, but more importantly, I cannot wait to give you guys the information needed to cash this weekend in Abu Dhabi. So let's run the intro, and I'll see you on the other side. So boys, welcome back again. Last week I did a video, and unfortunately the powers that be deleted the video at 3K views. The big boys do not want the little boys like us making money betting on sports. You know, Vegas put the call in, but I re-uploaded it, done a few things on a back end to make sure we avoided detection, and the video was up. I'm gonna do my best to give you the source here. Hopefully the video stays up and you can watch it and profit along with me. Speaking of profiting, this year has been fantastic, like I keep on saying lately, because we just passed the half-1 mark of the year, and this has been my best MMA betting year of my entire life. And it's crazy saying that after betting on MMA for 15 years and having some of the years I've had in MMA. Some of the years I've had in MMA have literally set me financially free, gave me the money that I needed to put into other things that earn me more money. But this year happens to be the best year of the lot. So, you know, lads, I'm gonna try and keep that up, and I feel like we're gonna do it with this card. I really like this card. So without further ado, let's get into the last fight of the night, the first fight of this video, which is the main event, which is Robert Whittaker taking on Reinier. Robert Whittaker is coming into this fight with a record of 26-8, a veteran record of 26-8. With Reinier coming into this fight with a record of 20-2, and also veteran record in MMA, but not so much in the UFC. So currently they have Robert Whittaker as the -140 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Reinier coming back at plus 120. Great fight, man. Really good fight. Both fighters have won me a decent amount of money in their UFC careers. You know, we played Ritter as an underdog against Kevin Holland, which seems like a crazy line now when you look back at it and you look back at the historic record of someone like Kevin Holland. You know, cashing that bet at plus money was probably one of my favorite bets of all time, just because of how easy it cashed. Then on the other hand, we have Robert Whittaker, and I cashed a big bet on him in his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev. I bet on Khamzat Chimaev to win, and I also bet on Khamzat Chimaev to win via submission in round 1. The odds were plus 800 for that, so it was very great cash for me, big cash, and it looked easy. You know, it looked easy. He ran through him. Chimaev was never in trouble in that fight. So I do like these guys. They've earned me a lot of money. Ritter did burn me in the last fight. I bet on Bo Nickal to win via KO. You know, I thought Bo would land the KO blow, and honestly, Ritter impressed me in that fight. He really impressed me, because Ritter is a very hittable guy, right? You know, and I've seen this throughout his entire career. He doesn't like to be on the feet. He's very awkward on the feet. And I'd actually go as far as saying he's a bad striker. He's not a good striker. He has power in his hands, and he's an MMA fighter, so he can land it, but he's actually a bad striker. And so I thought, you know, Bo Nickal would be able to land a couple of shots on the feet and at least deter Ritter. But what actually impressed me the most, or you know what, I'll say what shocked me the most in that fight, was the size of Ritter. You know, I mean, he looked like a weight class above Bo Nickal. And since Bo Nickal had dominated his opponents a lot of times with physicality, I definitely wasn't expecting Ritter to come there and look like a weight class above and dominate Bo with physicality. And that was really the tale of the whole fight, right? He dominated him with physicality and clinch work. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are in the clinch. If you're less physical than your opponent, you're probably just going to get pushed off the clinch. The clinch is going to be broken up and you're not going to be able to land your shots there. So yes, Dorita was good in the clinch, but the most important thing I think about that fight was his physicality. Dorita is an absolute beast for 185. You know, he almost looks like a 205 pounder. He has a lot of muscle, and as we know, if you have a lot of muscle, you can cut that water out of the muscle a little bit easier, so it's a little bit easier to cut weight. Dorita's competing at middleweight in the UFC, right? But he was the light heavyweight champion of one championship. So, I mean, in my eyes, especially after seeing things play out in the UFC, this guy's a light heavyweight. You know, he's not a middleweight, but he is making middleweight and he is competing at middleweight. And I think that could be the tail of the fight against Robert Whittaker. You know, I put a lot of stock into physicality in MMA. Physicality, strength, size, these things matter massively in MMA. And when I go back and look at Robert Whittaker's career, what has he struggled with? Physicality, size. You know, he really has. When you look at his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev, he lost the fight because he got out-physicaled. Of course, Chimaev is an insane round one fighter. He's got a lot of skills on the ground. Robert Whittaker actually did very well to defend the takedown from Khamzat Chimaev. He never got his back fully taken, only half taken, and then he actually got up to his feet at one point. You know, he was able to out-scramble Chimaev. But then Chimaev took him straight back down. And it's the physicality advantage Chimaev has. And it was so much of a physicality advantage that he ended up popping his jaw with a rear naked choke. You know, it's like a heavyweight squeezing a middleweight and his jaw popped, right? If you're a lightweight and you get face cranked by a heavyweight, your jaw might pop. If you get face cranked by a lightweight, it's probably not going to pop your jaw. You know what I mean? So you saw that in the fight there where Robert Whittaker's jaw exploded. And I don't think it's a great look. If you go back and look at his previous fights, Dricus du Plessis was another loss he had in the middleweight division. Why did he lose? It was physicality, man. He got taken down in round one. He got brutalized on the ground. You know, there were some good shots being landed by Dricus du Plessis. The takedown wasn't even that clean. It wasn't super technical. It's not like he beat him to the position very heavily. He was just strong. He just tripped him over. He just used his strength and physicality to take Rob down. And Rob couldn't get back up from bottom because he wasn't physical enough. You know, I don't necessarily think it's the skill set of Dricus du Plessis there. I really think it's the physicality, just overall strength advantage that he had over Robert Whittaker that won him that fight. You go back and you look at some of the fights against Yoel Romero. You know, Yoel Romero put him through war, put him through hell in those fights. And it really came down to Yoel Romero just being bigger, stronger, more physical, and he was able to land shots, you know, on Robert Whittaker. Now, Robert ended up winning against Yoel Romero, but he still struggled heavily. You look at some of the fights where Robert Whittaker didn't have a physicality disadvantage, and he won the fights cleanly. You know, you're talking about Marvin Vettori, wasn't necessarily close. You're speaking about Ikram Aliskerov, you could say, James, he's got a physicality advantage, and I would tend to agree. But that fight was over in 90 seconds. You know, he just caught him, head kick, fight was over. So if that fight goes 15 minutes, maybe you start to see the physicality advantage for Ikram Aliskerov take place, you know, and I would actually put money on that probably happening. I'm not saying he would win the fight. What I'm saying is I think the fight would go differently. You know, like I think that we may see Ikram get a takedown. We may see him beat him up in the clinch a little bit. You go back to the Kelvin Gastelum fight, you know, he won that cleanly, but Kelvin doesn't have a physicality advantage. Anytime he comes up against a fighter with a pronounced physicality advantage, he struggles. You know, I wouldn't say Paulo Costa has a massive physicality advantage. I know he looks like a big, scary, physical guy, but when is he out-physicaled his opponent? He never does it, right? He couldn't out-physical Sean Strickland. He couldn't do it to Robert Whittaker. He couldn't do it to Marvin Vettori. Like, this guy's not really going out there and out-physicaling fighters. Now, I do feel like he has it in his arsenal, but, you know, during that period of Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, these fights, he never really pushed his physicality advantage in much. So, yeah, I just feel like it's kind of a bad style matchup for Robert Whittaker. Whittaker has been in the game for ages. He has took so much punishment. I feel like Whittaker, even at 34 years old, is coming like a 40-year-old. Where I feel like Dorita, seeing as his run through the one championship fighters was, you know, dominant. He didn't take a lot of damage in those fights outside of the Anatoly fight. You know, Anatoly fights. He didn't take a lot of damage. So I think that one fighter is 34, but really like 40 in fight years. And one fighter is 34, but really like 32 in fight years. You know, I truly believe there's like an 8-year age difference when it comes to fight years. As my man Dan from Half the Battle always says, which I wholeheartedly agree, which I always say, not just his specific phrase that I want to give him props for. Fight years and numerical age are two completely different things. And we got a 40-year-old versus a 32-year-old, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people in the comments are going to be like, no, they're both 34. You can say what you want, brother. I really believe there's a massive age disadvantage for one fighter here when you're speaking about fight years, which is a very, very real phenomenon. So, yeah, I feel like we got the younger, fresher fighter coming into this fight who has a massive grappling advantage. You know, we speak about the skill sets, right? This guy is a elite black belt, right? This guy is running through people on the mat like GM3 in round 3, where, by the way, GM3 submits people with arm triangles in round 3. He doesn't get submitted via arm triangles in round 3. But when he's taken a step up in competition facing someone who's a much higher level black belt than him, like the Ritter was, then he does. And who else did he finish on the ground straight away? Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is a good jiu-jitsu player. I know he gets dominated on the ground by grapplers, but outside of Brendan Allen, another 185-pounder with elite jiu-jitsu, very good jiu-jitsu, I should say, this guy's not getting submitted by anyone. Yeah, he's getting taken down and dominated by Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson, but he's not getting submitted. The guy is scrambling with Gunnar Nelson and not getting submitted. The Ritter treated him like a baby. He ran through him. It was easy for him. You know, the guy's got draws on his record against Andre Galvao, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu fighters at this day and age. And he's gone to a draw with him in a grappling contest. I mean, at the end of the day, man, if you're not a high-level black belt, you're getting submitted. You know, I don't care about the rule set. I don't care about anything. If you ain't a high-level grappler, you're getting submitted. So that's really what it comes down to me. The Ritter has a massive size and physicality advantage, a massive fight year and freshness advantage, a massive I haven't taken a lot of damage advantage, a massive, and this is very important because it's not all intangibles, a massive grappling advantage, skill set on the mat. This guy is a elite jiu-jitsu fighter and Robert Whittaker's decent at jiu-jitsu. There is a big gap on the mat here. Now, there's a big gap on the feet for Robert Whittaker. We have to speak about that a little bit, right? But I'm not making a case for Robert Whittaker at minus 140. What you guys have to understand is that I know these fighters so well and I know MMA so well. I've been betting on it basically my entire adult life that I could sit down now and give you an in-depth breakdown on why Robert Whittaker would win the fight, just like I'm doing with the Ritter. But I'm not doing that because I'm picking the Ritter, right? And I think that the value is on the Ritter. So I'm going to sit here and give you a breakdown on the Ritter. I could tell you all the reasons why Robert Whittaker could win, right? Because he could, right? He's a better striker. I feel like he hides his shots very well, specifically the high kick, and the Ritter might not see it coming. The Ritter is very open on the feet. He can be countered easily, and I don't think his gas tank is on the level of someone like Robert Whittaker. So in a 5-round fight where he's never fought the level of competition that Whittaker has, you know, it's a big step up for the Ritter, and I don't think it's a step down for Whittaker. I don't. Now, you could say it's a step down from Chimaev, but I don't think it's a step down in general from his entire career. I think the Ritter is really on that level of Kelvin Gastelum, who else has he fought? Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori. You know, like, the Ritter's definitely on that level, if not better than a lot of those guys, and probably worse than a couple of them, like maybe Dricus du Plessis and maybe Chimaev. But then, again, as I said, better than Costa probably, and better than Kelvin. So, yeah, I don't think it's like a big step down for Robert Whittaker. It's about the same as he's been fighting, but it is a step up for the Ritter. But like I say, I'm not going to go in depth on the reasons why Robert Whittaker could win. I've mentioned a few key things to give Robert his respect, but I am picking, and obviously if I'm picking him, I'm saying there's value on him as an underdog line, the Ritter. I feel like the Ritter's going to take Robert Whittaker down. I think he's going to brutalize him on the ground. I think he's going to hit him with big elbows. I think he can go to full mount and make Robert Whittaker look like a baby on the ground. I think we're going to see this fight play out where the Ritter looks like a heavyweight and Robert Whittaker looks like a middleweight. And that's how I see the fight playing out, guys. This is MMA. Robert Whittaker can catch him on the feet. Robert Whittaker can catch him on the feet, I should say. Things can happen. That's not my prediction, though. I'm taking the Ritter to win this fight inside the distance. Whether it's a submission or a TKO, I wouldn't be surprised with either. But that is my prediction. The Ritter takes the fight and goes on to fight for a title in the next 12 months. He actually fights the winner of Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis. And if Dricus wins that fight, we're going to get two fighters who are somewhat clownish, who somewhat look full retard, as Dricus said himself, fight for a title, which is going to be crazy. But, man, I'm not looking past Chimaev. But anyway, in this fight, boys, the Ritter via finish for me. Let's move into the next fight now, boys. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGhee. What a great matchup we have here. Stylistically great and level of MMA skills great, just great in general. So currently Petr Yan has a record of 18-5 with Marcus McGhee a record of 10-1. They got Petr Yan as a massive favorite sitting at -350, best price at the moment with the underdog price tag on Marcus McGhee sitting at +285. And like I said, boys, best price. I mean, Petr Yan is -400 on multiple bookies. And the first thing that stands out to me is, damn, Yan's a big favorite. And damn, I don't necessarily agree with it. So let's get into the matchup. Look, man, I'm going to give Petr Yan his props now. He's a fantastic fighter. I've been a Petr Yan fan from day one. You know, I bet on Petr Yan to beat Uriah Faber all those years ago. You know, like, and he was a big favorite in that spot as well. About the same favorite as he is now, which is kind of nuts when you actually think about it. I mean, who had a better chance to beat Petr Yan? Uriah Faber or Marcus McGhee today? Yeah, that just shows you the fragility of MMA markets, and that's why I bet on the sport. I believe it's the best sport in the world to gamble on. It's also arguably the most volatile. I mean, I want to shout out baseball with the volatility as well. I've been seeing that this year specifically myself, betting on baseball, a lot of volatility. But man, MMA, one punch can change it. And you don't get that in a lot of sports. Even in boxing, you rarely get the turnarounds that we see in MMA. But that also means we can cash on the market because we can jump into the volatility and the recency bias and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, I want to give Yan his props, man. The guy's an elite fighter. He's done it all. Former champion, you know, beat some of the best fighters in the division and some of the best fighters in the sport, even before he came to the UFC. And then he ran through the UFC roster, went to champion, beat GOATs of the division, or at least GOATs of MMA, you know. I'm thinking of Jose Aldo. It was a GOAT of featherweight, not a bantamweight, but you get what I'm trying to say. So he's a great fighter, man. Good in all realms of the fight, elite scrambler, great takedown defense, elite cardio. He's a builder, so he gets better as the fight goes on. He makes reads in fight, which a lot of fighters don't do very well. He's one of the best at it. Great boxer, great striker. I mean, the guy does it all. You know, he doesn't have a weakness. If you said to me, what is Petr Yan's weakness? I couldn't give you one, right? Obviously, he's got areas where he's worse than other areas. I'd say his grappling is not as good as his striking, of course, but I wouldn't call it an outright weakness. So he's a great fighter, but you know who else is a great fighter? Marcus McGhee. Marcus McGhee is a very good fighter, and he doesn't have nowhere near the high level experience as Petr Yan, but he definitely does have a lot of attributes that I think beat Petr Yan, namely power. You know, I think he delivers his shots just as well as Petr Yan, not in combination as well, and I don't rate his kicks as good, although he does have some good kicks, man. Word to that Gaston Bolanos knockout. Beautiful knockout. But I do say that Petr Yan probably has a bit of a wider arsenal on the feet, you know, when we're speaking about the clinch game, the kicks to all levels, and just a variety of attacks. But Marcus McGhee definitely can compete there as well. You know, I think Marcus McGhee has more power than Petr Yan on the feet. And I think he's a comparable boxer. I think he lands his shots pretty well in the pocket, man. And you know what Petr Yan likes to do? Land shots in the pocket. And if he does that against Marcus McGhee, it could be trouble for him because I think he's at a power disadvantage here. I'm going to touch on the fight years versus numerical age thing again in this fight because I think it's very important. So we've got Marcus McGhee, who's 35 years of age. And we've got Petr Yan, who's 32. So you think Petr Yan has an age advantage here? I don't see it that way, man. I really don't see it that way. I mean, Petr Yan is a veteran of the sport. Again, this guy's pushing 40 in fight years, in my opinion. You know, he really is. In my opinion, the fresher fighter, the more hungry guy, the guy who has more to give in the sport is Marcus McGhee. You know, this guy's career trajectory is going up. And I feel like Petr Yan is not the fighter he once was. Now, this may be a hot take, but I really feel like he has declined in, you know, the last few years. Look, man, his performance against Merab wasn't great, right? He got completely dominated. It was one of the best performances of Merab's career. You know, it may have been the best. Probably the best. I mean, his recent performance against Sean O'Malley was obviously elite because of the finish, but I'd say that the 5-round performance against Petr Yan was probably the best performance that we've ever seen from him. Maybe we've ever seen in MMA. You know, it's tough to find a better performance than that, at least over 5 rounds. You know, finishes and stuff are a bit different. But anyway, he didn't perform well in that fight. Apparently he had injuries. In his next fight against Song Yudong, I bet on him, right? I bet on Petr Yan via decision as well. And he won the fight. And I don't think he looked prime Petr Yan. I feel like he looked a little bit of a step behind. He had to rely on a couple of takedowns there, when things were getting a little bit sketchy on the feet, you know, and a minute or two of control time. I think about 97 seconds worth of control time he got. He got taken down himself in that fight as well. And I felt like he wasn't looking as good as I thought he would on the feet. Song Yadong started off very well in that fight. And Petr Yan historically does lose round one. You know, that was a common thing of Petr Yan. And Petr came back into the fight. You know, he made reads in the octagon. Like I said, he's very good at doing. I feel like his veteran spirit got him over that fight outside of his actual skill set. I think prime for prime, Petr Yan just probably beats him a little bit cleaner. Song Yadong's a good fighter. But the reaction timing, the reaction to shots / durability, I felt like declined for Petr Yan in that fight. And then he came back and fought Deiveson Figueiredo. And again, he kind of cleaned him out. But Figueiredo's a flyweight at the end of the day, moving up, who again is past his prime, well past his prime, even more than Petr Yan. And he even managed to make, you know, at times, the fight close against Petr. Petr won cleanly, but Petr got rocked in that fight. You know, he got cracked in that fight. And again, the reaction to shots, the durability, I believe, is dropping down a little bit. You saw Merab put it on him on the feet as well. So it's like, I haven't liked how he's reacted to shots against Merab Dvalishvili, Yadong Song, and Deiveson Figueiredo. You know, I really feel like Petr Yan is on a downhill. He's still so good that he won 2 out of 3 fights there. But I do think he's on a downhill trajectory. I can't say the same for Marcus McGhee. Look, Marcus McGhee is a massive underdog here. I understand why, right? The level of competition is insane. The step up for Marcus McGhee is insane. It may be too much of a step up for him to handle. He's never seen anything like Petr Yan before. It could be too much for him, and I admit that. But I am not afraid to look stupid on an underdog this big. I think Marcus McGhee has a power advantage, a durability advantage at this point in his career. And this is key. I don't think Petr Yan's going to be able to rely on the wrestling like he has done against Yadong Song. It got him out of a couple of hairy moments, you know, a couple of takedowns. And I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to do it against someone as athletic as Marcus McGhee. Marcus McGhee has great takedown defense as he displayed throughout his UFC career and on the regional scene. He's very athletic. He's also got very good footwork, you know, which could trouble Petr Yan. Petr Yan may have trouble tracking him in the later portion of the fight when he starts to put the pace on him, as he does to everybody. 3-round fight favors McGhee as well. Yan is a 5-round fighter, you know, and also Yan loses round 1 a lot. He's done it throughout the entirety of his career. He done it in his very second to last fight against Yadong Song. And if he loses round 1 here, I don't know whether he's going to be able to come back and win round 2 and 3 like he did against Yadong Song. This is going to be a tough one. You know, this is not going to be an easy fight. And minus 400 odds is absolutely insane in my eyes. I feel like Marcus McGhee can hurt. Petr Yan can rock him, can drop him. I think he can compete in the wrestling scrambles with the physicality, as I spoke of in the previous fight, with the athleticism, as I spoke of in this fight, with the footwork. I also think he can match Petr Yan with some of the output on the feet, which he's probably not used to. I do think McGhee may slow down as the fight goes later, but it may not be enough, you know. He may already be 2 rounds up. He may have dropped Petr Yan in round 1 and then won the round 2, and now he has to just avoid getting finished, which I don't see Petr Yan finishing in this fight. Petr Yan's not a great finisher over 3 rounds. Who has he finished in a 3-round fight? It's extremely bare. It's bare minimum. You know, he's hardly finished anyone in a 3-round fight throughout the entirety of his career. So I don't think he's going to finish someone like Marcus McGhee. It's possible, but I don't think so. So I'm going to pick Marcus McGhee in this fight. He's a massive underdog, plus 300 odds, and I'm going to pick him. I think he's going to hurt Yan. I think he's going to wobble him. I think he's going to rock him. I think this fight is going to be a 29-28 decision either way. And I'm picking Marcus McGhee as a massive underdog to come out on top and upset the odds and upset the world of MMA and hand Petr Yan another loss. The next fight is Shara Bullet Magomedov taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. So Shara has come into this fight with a shiny record, 15 wins and only 1 loss, with the Marc-Andre Barriault side looking at 17 wins with 9 losses. Currently, Shara Bullet is a massive favorite, minus 500 odds, with the underdog price tag on Marc-Andre Barriault coming back at plus 375. So Marc-Andre looking like the biggest underdog on this card, or at least one of them. And honestly, I can kind of see why. I am not going to give you guys another underdog pick in this one. You know I love my underdogs, and you know I just gave you 2 underdogs in the previous 2 fights. But in this one, I'm not going to give you an underdog, man. I think Marc-Andre Barriault is kind of over the hill, to be honest. He just beat someone in his last fight that was also over the hill, so maybe we have forgot. But I don't think Marc-Andre Barriault is going to be around the UFC for much longer. I feel like he's going to start to get finished more often. You know, this guy was known for tanking damage, not getting KO'd, and then he just gets KO'd in multiple fights in his recent losing streak before the Bruno Silva finish. So I feel like his durability is waning, and I think we're going to see that play out in this fight. Shara, say what you want about him, has elite footwork, has a very diverse skill set when it comes to the striking. He can hit you with spinning shit. He's actually decent when he lets his hands go, and obviously his kicks are elite. You know, body, head. Head kicks with both legs, lead legs, like spinning shit. I just don't think Marc-Andre is going to be able to deal with it, man. I mean, Marc's a meat and potatoes guy. Yes, if he can, you know, push the pace on you, potentially take you down, grind you in the clinch, then, you know, things can start going south for you. But he needs to come through some early adversity in round one here, and I don't know if he can do it. He's been knocked out in round one in the UFC before, multiple times, and I feel like he might get knocked out in round one again. He could also get knocked out in round three. It's one of those ones, you know. I just think Shara Bullet has the style to beat Marc-Andre, because how is Marc going to get him in the clinch if Shara's got much better footwork? Right, he's going to be kicking him at range, so Marc's going to be a bit like hesitant to close distance, because every time he closes distance, he's going to get kicked in the face. Let me tell you that now. And hard, fast, and sharp by someone who's very good at it, who's made a whole career out of doing it, in Shara Bullet. So it's going to be tough for him to close the distance in general. And if he just says, fuck it, I'm going to close the distance, I have to get kicked, it's the only way I can win, which arguably will be the smartest way to take the fight, he's probably just going to get kicked in the head and knocked out, right? And if he doesn't do that and says, all right, I need to play it smart on the outside, he's going to get kicked in the head and knocked out, or just he's going to get his leg beat up, his body beat up, and he's going to lose the fight by a wide decision, perhaps even a 10-8 in there. So I honestly don't see the path to victory for Marc-Andre Barriault. Like, I know what it is, right? It's clinch, Shara, get him tired, get a takedown, work from top position. Shara has very bad get-up game and a very bad bottom game, so you need to get him down. And obviously shit can happen, right? It's MMA. Of course, he could slip on a kick. He can maybe land a big shot over the top and he gets knocked down. Like, it can happen. So I can see the path to victory. When I say I can't see it, what I mean is, like, I can't see him executing it. I just can't. Like, is it impossible? No, of course. Like, shit can happen. I can see it potentially happen. And I just feel like it's so unlikely that I'm happy to say I can't see it happening. You know what I mean? Like, it's so unlikely. Is the odds wide? Probably not. You know, would I say -4, -500? Probably would, to be honest. You know, I just feel like Marc needs you to stand in front of him so he can grapple you in the clinch, or he needs you to slow down. And I can't guarantee Magomed Sharapov is going to do that, because he's not got the best gas tank, but he can do his game at range for 15 minutes. He can do his game at range for 25 minutes, you know. You need to pressure him. And I just feel like if Marc pressures him, he hasn't got the wherewithal, the awareness on the feet, the footwork, the head movement to avoid the strikes coming back at him. So I'm going to pick Shara Bullet in this fight. I'm going to pick a KO for Shara, and I'm actually going to pick a KO early in round one, because usually that is how Marc-Andre is getting finished, and Shara has the skill set to start early with his kicks and put it on him. 5 minutes is a long time to last when you're the much more inferior striker who needs to close distance against an elite kicker when your durability is fading. So KO in round one is my prediction. Now we move on to the next fight, which is Bryce Mitchell versus Nurmagomedov. Now, unfortunately, guys, the odds for this are not out, but I didn't want to not give you a breakdown for this fight, because I know a lot of you guys watching this video are going to want to hear my thoughts on this fight. So I thought, you know what, let me just break the fight down without odds, and let me actually assign my own odds to this. So it's like a fun thing to do. But right now, Bryce Mitchell has a fight record of 17 wins and 3 losses, with Nurmagomedov a very similar record, 18 wins and 4 losses. So 1 more win, but also 1 more loss. Now, guys, this is a very interesting fight to me, because we got Bryce Mitchell moving down from the featherweight division and fighting in the bantamweight division. I think it could be good for him. If he makes weight healthily, I think it could be good for him, because the 2 losses he had in the featherweight division, where you see why he moved down, was not the Josh Emmett one, right? I'm not going to speak about that one. I'm going to speak about 2 specific losses. Josh Emmett one, he got caught with a big shot. I can't blame that on the weight or anything, right? I can't say Josh Emmett was too big for him. He just caught him with a good shot, right? But if you watch the Topuria fight and the Gene Silva fight, the guy is competing in both of those fights. He is looking good in both of those fights. In fact, he is looking like great bets early in round one in both of those fights. He takes down Ilia Topuria. Whoever does that, he controls Ilia Topuria. Who does that? He's competing with Gene Silva, fine. You know, he's striking with two of the best fighters we've ever seen in featherweight. Ilia Topuria and GTV, he's striking with these guys, you know, he's grappling with them, but the physicality of these fighters start to take over time and time again. He gets choked out by both of them just because they're both too physical for him, right? So him moving down to bantamweight, I don't hate it. I'm very interested to see him at bantamweight. If his skill set translates there, if his physicality translates, if he doesn't do too much damage to himself, his durability and cardio by moving down and, you know, draining himself, then I think he could be a bit of a force at 145 and, you know, potentially make it to the top 10 of that division. Sorry, 135, I should say. So, yeah, in this fight, it's an interesting one, guys. Like I said, there's no odds out. Yeah, I'd probably make Bryce Mitchell about a -150 favorite. And I know a lot of people are going to be disagreeing with that. And I'm hoping that they open Said Nurmagomedov as a favorite. I feel like we could see that, you know, Said is often loved by the bookies. Shout out to our bet on Vinicius Logdog Oliveira at +200 odds against Said in his last fight. That was a great cash. I've faded Said multiple times and, you know, been lucky enough to cash multiple times as well. I oftentimes find myself betting against Said, and at the end of the day, man, it's because this guy is basically a finish or bust type fighter. You know, I mean, this guy's not going 15 minutes and giving a solid 15 minutes for the most part, you know, because he gets very tired in there. And Bryce Mitchell is someone who doesn't really get tired, you know, like unless you're putting it on him, hurting him, then he definitely gets tired. But if you're not out physicaling him, he ain't going to get tired, really. He's going to push through. And even if he does get tired, like the Ige fight, he pushes through very well and gets takedowns late in the fight. You know, when I watched the Said Nurmagomedov versus Kakramanov fight, he's getting grappled by Kakramanov and it's pretty easy, you know, like Said Yakub is not having any issues doing it. So I don't think Bryce Mitchell is as a relentless of a grappler than Kakramanov is, but I do feel like he has some of the same skill set, that he can apply that skill set in at least getting the takedowns. And I feel like his cardio is going to hold up better than Said's. So unless he gets finished by a ninja choke, I kind of see him winning the fight. Now, it's not just as easy as avoid the ninja choke, because at the end of the day, Said does have some great kicks and he jumps on the ninja choke better than anyone else in the division. But yeah, I want to do a little bit more tape on this, honestly. But overall, I am going to pick Bryce Mitchell to win the fight. It's tough for me to get a real read on how Said defends the wrestling, because the only fight that went a decent amount of time where he was getting wrestled was the Kakramanov fight. You know, outside of that, in the UFC, the guy's either finishing via ninja choke or he's kind of getting beat up on the feet a little bit, like Jonathan Martinez fighting Vinicius Oliveira. Now, he did get grappled in both those fights, you know, namely the Vinicius Oliveira fight, right? I watched that the other day. Obviously, Vinicius fought last week, Said's fighting this week. So it was a perfect fight for me to watch. And Vinicius got takedowns of his own there, you know, and Said was looking tired there. Now, if someone like Bryce Mitchell gets him in those same positions, which again, I don't 100% know because Bryce doesn't have the striking of Vinicius, right? Or the physicality. But if Said gets that tired and Vinicius was able to grapple him, I feel like Bryce may be able to grapple him. But the difference is Bryce is going to be right there to latch onto a submission, because Vinicius had that front headlock position multiple times, but he just didn't go for it. Instead, he just wanted to punch him in the ribs and punch him in the head from top position. And I understand why. The guy's a striker first. But Bryce Mitchell could easily just roll to a guillotine there, could roll to a dash choke there. I feel like Bryce Mitchell is going to be able to get the takedowns, outlast someone like Said, and potentially finish the fight via arm triangle or some type of bully wrestler, cardio type submission from top position the later the fight goes. So that is my prediction. Bryce Mitchell to win this fight via submission in rounds 2 or rounds 3. All right, that's it for today, boys. If you want all of my other official plays and you want to join the money team, the Lucrative MMA team, get direct access to me in the group chat and all of my other guys in the group chat where we share information about this sport and other sports and cash on these UFC fight nights, on these UFC pay-per-views, then all you need to do is go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma and you get access to everything, man. My full card breakdowns, all of my official bets and the exact amount of money that you should put on it. You can get access to all of that and more for a very low price. Boys, now I'm gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune. If you don't know what the Wheel of Fortune is, it is a segment of the show where I give you, yes, you, a chance to join my elite zone, the one that's got all of my plays in, completely for free. So everybody who left a positive comment on my last video has been automatically entered into the Wheel of Fortune draw for this weekend. I'm going to spin the wheel right now and we're going to see who has won. I'm going to pick out one comment from all the comments from last week, and whoever wins gets 1 month free to the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. There's going to be over 200 comments. So if you leave a comment, yes, it's less than a 1% chance that you're going to be selected. But if you are, congratulations. And if you're not, like I said, you can still go and sign up and get access to all of the exclusive stuff. Spin the Wheel of Fortune now, and let's see who's won this week. All right, let's go. I'm spinning it now, lads. All right, let's see who win this week. There is so many names on there because there's so many comments. Good luck to you all. Hopefully you win. All right, there it is. Mooch Burt. Mooch Burt has won. You just won 1 month free of the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. All you need to do to claim your prize is to email me at lucrativebettingtips@hotmail.com. I have saved your YouTube profile, so we're going to verify you with that YouTube profile. So if you didn't win, don't try and email and scam. You're not going to pass the verification. But send me an email and I'll get you in. And like I said, don't worry if you haven't won this week. You can still go sign up for a very cheap price. So that's it. Hopefully we're going to cash again, boys. Hopefully we can keep on this crazy hot streak that we have been on. And hopefully we can keep making 2025 our bitch like we have done throughout the first 7 months of the year. Good luck on your bets this weekend, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you in the Elite Zone if you're smart.